Shalom. Pain, trauma, brokenness, those are not the main factors of dysfunctional relationships or marriages. They do contribute to, but they are not the root cause. Because if you should look into it, how far can you go back with those narratives, right? People are in survival mode today, no doubt, right? You might have two children, two, three, four, right? You have a job, you have a house. Your job covers your rent, your bills, food, sending the children to school until you get the next paycheck. Compare that survival mode to the days of your grandparents. 10 children, or go further back into slavery. Having 10 children, probably about 5 being taken away from them, separated, never see them again. Slave master taking advantage of the woman, passing her from masters to masters. But those things never destroyed the union between the man and the woman, because all we had would have been each other. So it doesn't matter how much you go into the master's house. Guess what? You know who you belong to and where you belong to. Today we're kind of accepted by white society, so it's easy for us to turn our backs on who we belong to. We are being led away because of things that we're exposed to. When you take a broken person today, right? When you take a broken person today, how do they cope with their brokenness? A lot of people are promiscuous because of that, right? But it has a lot to do with what they're being exposed to, because when you listen to like the music, how these people deal with brokenness, or when there's no intimacy involved in the situation, what do they do? How do they live their lives? When you meet a person and the person said they've been single for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 5 months, have you ever asked them how did they cope with the sexual aspect of their lives? You see, we are exposed to so many things now, and these things, they do affect us. They do affect how we look at marriages, relationships. And even if you overcome those things, guess what? The effect is still there. It's still lying dormant in the unconscious. So you might not be addicted to certain things anymore, but the beliefs are there, and they're dictating how you operate in relationships. A lot of men cannot get enough of being of going to strip clubs. Why? Something have taken root in their unconscious. Now you go and have relationships with these men. What type of intimacy are you hoping to create? What type of emotional connection are you hoping to create? What type of commitment are you hoping to create? How excited do you expect him to be for you, or how aroused you expect him to be for you? Some men, they cannot get aroused without a certain imagery in the mind. Porn and masturbation alter our perceptions of the union between man and woman. We can pretend all we want, but it has done a lot. And even if you walked away from the porn or the masturbation, the effects are still lying dormant. And that is exactly how we see each other. This is the very reason why it's easy to walk away from relationships. Because you're walking right back to the thing that you walked away from. This is the very reason why it's hard to please a woman. You'll hear some woman say, oh, it's a waste of time being with men because you can't even get an orgasm from them. Yeah, but then that has a lot to do with the quality men that you're talking to. And if you have an addiction to porn, that's going to dictate the type of men you talk to, of course. Because when you watch porn, guess what? You don't get to experience or see or witness that part of it where the woman, where it's about the woman having orgasms and so forth. It's just about the excitement, the thrill. And this is why you see a lot of people who you see on like virtual dating sites looking for relationships. These people are more likely, these people more likely have a history of porn addiction and masturbation, because porn drives you to get into these virtual hookups. So out there in the world, a man going to the club, a woman going to the club, getting that hookup, it is coming from somewhere. In the religious institutions, you go to a certain feast day or a Sabbath or a certain event at the church, the congregation, whatever. Guess what? You'll meet a man or a woman there for the first, boom, sex, and hoping that you're gonna have a fruitful relationship. It's no different from the man or the woman that met in the club and just had sex last night. You just want to use your religious doctrines to put a narrative on the sex that you just had. It's the same hooking up. There's no intimacy involved. There's no emotional involvement in that. These are the lies that we tell ourselves. Why do you think most women, when they're talking, they talk about the physical features of the man? Oh, 6 foot, 6 foot tall, this type of muscular body, athletic body, this, that. Because that's exactly what you saw in those sex movies. The man looking that way. So that's an image that you have for the criterion of a great sex. Why you think you're more curious about the size of his tool more than his values or what he's about before you getting involved? It's coming from somewhere. Or you think you were probably born with that idea embedded in your system that you're gonna be with a man 6 feet tall, looking like this and so forth. It's driven by something. And because of that, it makes you less concerned about how satisfied you are having orgasms when you have sex. And this is why you can complain that men are useless when it comes to sex. Sometimes you are so caught up, you're so tied up in the toys that you use to please yourself that a physical man has no impact on you. You're so accustomed to watching porn and touching yourself. So the brain has paired those two things just like a Bluetooth device. It has to be paired with something else. So if it's not paired if the sex is not paired with you touching yourself, you cannot have an orgasm. It doesn't matter how great the man is. It doesn't matter how connected you are in whichever way. You have to be touching yourself because that is what orgasm is paired to. And it's the same for some men. If they're not watching the porn before they get to you, get to touch you, it's like they cannot be aroused because that is their Bluetooth device. The imagery of porn is paired to their arousal. So then you start to feel like there's a problem with you in the relationship when it has nothing to do with you. It's about the image in the person's unconscious belief that is dictating how aroused they get, or how pleased or how satisfied they get in relationships. You cannot create an emotional bond because what the imagery of the porn and masturbation does to your unconscious, it destroys that part of you. And then now you have enough of touching yourself, playing with all these toys and all of these type of things, now you are ready to have a serious relationship with a real person. Really? You spent all your life creating relationships and attachments to inanimate objects, and now you want a real person to have a functional relationship with? How does that work? How are you going to override all those years of those beliefs being magnifying, getting stronger, getting more intense over and over through the years? Are you going to tell your partner how many years you spent being addicted to porn and masturbation? How it destroyed many of your relationships? How it prevents you from pleasing your partner, or your partner pleasing you? Are you guys emotionally connecting to each other? And even if two people in the world who have who share this common thing of watching porn, the thing is, it can still affect them, because when one person door opens more than the other, that's going to be problematic. Because the thing about porn is, it takes you from one door to another. So first you started with heterosexual, then you find that, okay, now you're curious about what two women look like. You're curious about what this look like, what this looks like, what that looks like, toys, everything. So what happens when you are going beyond where your partner goes? What about when you want to experience things that your partner is not into experiencing? So it can still affect you both. We need to be honest with ourselves so we can be honest with the people who we are dating. Dealing with a person's pain and trauma is 10 times easier than dealing with a person who had been addicted to porn and masturbation. This is why it's so easy to walk away. When a person is hurt or broken or whatever, you can work with the person, you can help bring back that person to the natural state. But when porn and masturbation and things of those override their consciousness or their outlook on what the union between a man and woman is, how do you move from that? That person has to be 100% willing to participate in his or her own recovery from that. And it starts by confessing or admitting, both to yourself and the person you're about to get involved with. These are some of the things, because a lot of people, they follow what psychologists say about why relationships work or don't work. But these are some of the details they don't really get into. That your concept of relationship is overridden by the effects of porn and addiction to your belief system. How do you live your single life? What are the things you do when you get a babysitter for the child for a night, a week, a day, whatever it is? Who is the person you become? You transformed into? Who is the man you become since you broke up with your last relationship? Or in between relationships? What is the type of life do you live? What is it being fueled? What was it fueled by? What kind of women do you get involved with? What qualities of relationship do you engage in? You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And if we don't know these things about our partners, marriages will continue to be difficult, and we'll just buy into the narratives that psychologists preach to us. Say, oh, it's because the person is broken or hurt or traumatized or in survival mode. You don't know what traumatized is. You don't know what real trauma is. You don't know what real survival mode is. Your foreparents, while you might be worried when you see a police, guess what? Your grandparents, they were terrified by the sight of any white person. It doesn't matter how mighty the person is or how low the person is, as long as that person is white, that's already a threat. You don't know about traumatized. You don't know about survival mode. The system knows exactly what it's doing with these porn. They are free from it. They are not under the covenants that we are under to be affected by it in ways that we are affected by it. If they had really wanted to get rid of it, trust me, they would have done it. Just like they got rid of the Russian news, we cannot get anything from the eastern side. The last thing we had was the RT, Russian TV, where we would know what's going on. What did they do with it? Cannot access anything. There was this person that used to share his thing on YouTube. I think it was Gareth Price. So that's where we would get the Russian news from. We cannot get it anymore. So if they really wanted to get rid of porn, trust and believe they would get rid of it. It has an agenda there. It has an agenda and they're profiting from it. And this is why they push marriage so much. Marriage is cheap. They make more money when you divorce. And if they can get more married people hooked on porn and masturbation, the more profits divorce will bring. No, you can choose to do what you want with that information. Shalom.